Hello everyone. Welcome to the Gonzo Film Reviews podcast. You might be surprised that there's a female voice talking, but no worries. It's only Socrates, aka John's girlfriend, speaking to you all. But don't worry, John is on here with me. We are doing a review on Jeanne Du Barry. Him and I, we saw it together when it was released in the US in May. And so, without further ado, I'm going to get started. So, I saw this film with John because I really wanted to just see a good aesthetically pleasing movie. I saw previews on it on social media. I heard the craze about it in Europe and other countries of that sort. So I was looking forward to this a lot.
Also,
And
it made you feel important because it was in French, which is
yes,
exotic.
yeah, I felt very, I felt so sophisticated after the movie. I was like, yes, everything is okay. It was very nice. Um, but yeah, that film did not disappoint me one tiny bit. So I will just basically get into it as to why. Um, so yeah, the first things first, I thoroughly believe that Jean Du Barry appealed to all of the five senses through two layers. I categorize them as one, the first layer is the aesthetic cinematography. So that's through the audio, the soundtrack, the dialogue, the captioning of the dialogue, the way that it was edited, the way that it was put together. So just the basics of filming. Um, it was really beautiful and honestly just gorgeous to look at. Like the color scheming was perfect. The soundtrack was great. It matched everything perfectly. And as a music geek, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And also, I think the reason why it was very emotional was because Maiwen directed this film, and she also starred in it as Jeanne Du Barry, and she wrote it. And I think because we've had a more female perspective on it, it kind of just captured that emotional side of Jean's journey. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that section.
Well, I'm going to be saying a lot that it was heavily inspired by older films by Kubrick, mainly Barry Lyndon. A lot of scenes that have tons of extras, and there's a little bit of Amadeus in there too, because they would get as accurate of a set as possible, or at least as accurate to the ideal that they were striving for as possible. And they would fill it with so many extras, and they wouldn't digitally fuck around and try to add things. They would actually genuinely get 200 people to make it look like you're at court or to make it look like you're at a opening performance. It looks like these giant paintings, basically, a lot of the shots
Yeah.
and the way several scenes were set up. And it's almost like a baby of Barry Lyndon and Amadeus in a lot of ways, where you get the scandals and the rumors and possibly slight, I don't know what the word is here. It's kind of non-adherence to exact historical accuracy. Liberty, I think, is the
Mhm.
word I was looking for. Creative liberties, but it also merges that with the kind of hard tale of someone whose life never really seems to fully succeed, or at least doesn't seem to be going personally well, even when the character experiences what should be huge successes or reliefs, even when they're doing well financially or in terms of their reputation. There are
Mhm.
people out to get them and after them. So in either case, you're getting a hard fought, um, but also lavish and fancy tale of someone who goes from the bottom to the top and then straight down to the bottom again. And there are a lot more
Yeah.
similarities between them, but from these sections at least, those are some of my most dear connections that I made to the older films.
It's funny how you say that specific character arc because as you were discussing that, it made me think to this strange film that we saw together. It was Nightmare Alley. Like the main character had that exact same arc. Yes, it was different. It was a little more dark and it was more kind of like horror suspense sort of deal. but at the end he goes back to the bottom of the barrel, like almost to the point where he's just like a freak in those times. So I thought that was interesting that you said that.
Well, I mean, Nightmare Alley was based off an older film, and
What was the
noir
film?
kind of. I don't remember the name of the original off the top of my head. Um, I think it was the exact same title. Yeah, 1947 Nightmare Alley. They did kind of reboot it and update it, but they do pull inspiration from a lot of those older tragic tales. Noir probably would not be as good of a thing without the blues and without Shakespearean and Greek tragedies and things like that.
Mhm.
So I honestly don't think that there is a huge appetite for things that go badly for the protagonist and for darker stories and for stories for people who are miserable right now, but or just
Yeah,
the
that's true.
morbidly curious or people who are just excited by things going horribly. um but this one was more of a, I think, direct, had a direct lineage between other French works and other period pieces, but the main ones that I was seeing and that I was delighted to hear Depp talk about in the interview afterwards was Barry Lyndon. That's probably the main
Yeah.
inspiration and main comparison that I can make. But there was a lot of Amadeus in there too.
Yeah, for sure. Because when Jeanne Du Barry at the end, she like goes to that monastery or whatever. I mean, I'm not familiar with Catholic terms, and I probably shouldn't be anyway, because it's a waste of my time.
I would just
But
call it a nunnery. That's where the nuns is.
yeah, but nonetheless, the point is that I thought of Amadeus when I saw that because it reminded me of when Amadeus passed away, and his bag of his body literally fell in the ground, and it just really captivated that raw, like, yep, this is where you'll be.
Buried with
Like,
everybody else.
so yeah, that was those references were very prominent in the film. So I just, either way, it was great. I just loved it. Um, so yeah, and the second thing I wanted to add, or the second section, it was the characters' performances. They were accurate through body language, the sounds capturing in the room, the dialogue, the outfits, the costume design, which brings realism to the film, as I've said at the beginning. And as Johnny Depp said in his short interview, it was like I was in a time capsule. I think that's what he specifically said, but I could just be paraphrasing. Um, I just loved how he said that, because when I watched the film, I felt like I was in a time machine. I literally felt like I went into a TARDIS with David Tennant and we entered into France. Like, it was super cool to just see that. And it felt like everything was coming to life, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm
So
not
I
gonna
just,
lie. Multiple times I looked around, like, is Manab Papador around the corner?
yeah,
Like, is the doctor here? There was a Doctor Who
yeah, I
episode
thought the
about,
same thing.
yeah, around that period. So I was looking, but I didn't expect much.
Looking for any fireplaces, any weird robots, like
They
any of
should have
that
stuck
stuff.
a police box in the corner somewhere and just dared the BBC to sue them.
I love that because BBC sucks.
They don't have the balls to sue.
Well, I wrote this entire list after that section of main reasons why I love the film. And I put in my notes, I put equals Jean, and I put Jean in all caps. um, Firstly, she defied the odds through racism, sexism, bigotry, and social status. Now, that might sound like in current times, it's like, yeah, no shit. Like during that time, it was the women were kind of lower than men, obviously. But the fact that she wore pants and she was like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Like, she was just so like bold about it. And I really liked that. But I naturally have an inclination to characters that do that just to be like, just to piss people off. Like, it makes me feel confident in myself. It inspires me to be like more independent of my own decisions and know what my boundaries are and stuff like that. And same thing with like music and just media in general. If I see someone that acts like that, I'm gonna love it. With Jean, she truly was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But then yet again, she also had her weak moments. There was times where the king's daughters would like mock her, especially the death of her son. I was infuriated. Like, I was so mad at those daughters because they were like, oh, your son died. Let me cry. Let me mimic you crying. It's like, girl, that's just wrong. But the fact that Jean showed that weakness, it really captured that essence of, again, the realism, the rawness, the emotion, everything.
It it was a very humanizing portrayal of someone who historically has been treated like shit just because her quote unquote origins were not totally understood by the other rich snobs that were in that court. So um, this film did a great job of showing why Marie Antoinette didn't really like her. I mean, besides being kind of jealous of her beauty, it's historically people asking why she hated her. It's so unlikely that this clueless girl who's coming from somewhere else would really know the full story. So, I mean, it's kind of just like she falls into the same pattern of um just quiet bigotry. Like I just hate this woman just because she's
Mhm.
not like of divine rich white origin like me, my pure blood family and all that dumb stuff. So, it's just they did a great job of making you want to punch a bunch of daughters in the face, but namely showing how the
Yeah,
corruption of the group was poisoning like a mind virus other people in the group, and
yeah,
it was the main driver behind the cause of her downfall. It's very sexist attacks. It's like the dubious
yeah,
woman attack. Um, I can attack men for their ideas or for who they are without calling them men specifically, but there's a very common pattern of um, including woman in the attack, as if there
mhm,
are subtle, implicit ways that you think that women should act. And they're not adhering to those standards now, so you're going to try and put them back in their place. Um, for example, if you are running against someone and she happens to be a woman and you make a point all the time of saying, this woman, that dumb woman, or this nasty, horrible woman, it's just reinforcing the idea that that's how you see her, rather than just seeing her as an opponent, or someone you disagree with, things like that.
yep, absolutely. I mean, either way, I feel like this whole film was very good at, you know, putting that controversial stuff together. Especially, I loved the part where like Jean had like these specific dresses, like she had like striped dresses with very bold colors, and the daughters like absolutely hated that. So what they did was they like wore those dresses to mimic her. And at the beginning, Jean was like, fuck off. I have better things to do. Leave me alone. And all this stuff. But yet she remained respectful to them. And I thought that was a big power move because if I was her, I would be more mature, honestly, because I'm very protective of myself. But either way, I just thought she's a cool character. And even though that she is a quote unquote harlot or a prostitute, she was original and she was keen on being part of the king's life, and little did she realize how much of a beautiful relationship she would have with the king, but also how um, interesting it was going to get as well, because she later found out that he had bitches. He had prostitutes, a lot of prostitutes. Um, but she was his favorite. So I don't know. It's a weird love story, but to me, I thought it was pretty beautiful, even though he had his wrongdoings. That's just how kings were. And I was like, all right, well, I guess this is what it is. So
No, I
moving
mean
on.
it's more like too. It's the problem of the situation, and it's the problem of human expectations in that um, arena, because you have someone who is being, I don't know what the word is. There it is, retained. You have someone who's being retained, and despite what you think about what it being as special as a marriage, it's really not ever going to get there, sadly. You can be the king's favorite
Right.
prostitute, but that's the problem. The word prostitute is still in there. So while it may feel
Exactly.
like you're being showered with gifts and given royal treatment, and she got that special inside look at a morning in the life of the king, as she was hidden in a side room with a double mirror, watching all the dumb things that he has to do every day while he's making faces at her through the window.
That was hilarious.
Like she gets to see things like that, but it doesn't mean that she is like a soulmate. Even they might be, but she's not his wife. That's the thing. He didn't make a wife out of her, so that's why too. Later on, when it happened, she was upset. Yes, but she kind of came around and learned to deal with it because she was also acknowledging the fact that like as sad as it is, there's really no way to break out of the past, and there's no way to just change and just become his wife in a way. I guess it's tough
Right.
to um it is tough to figure, but that's just how it shakes sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to come across as somebody that's like, well, I'm here to bash this because this is wrong. Like, yes, it was wrong for the king to do all these things. But yet again, what else do you expect within history? History tends to repeat itself, whether it's through war, whether it's through royalty, different countries and the way that it falls apart or it goes back up. Like, either way, life changes, but the past still remains. And so, the fact that Jeanne was a prostitute, I think that's just something that she had to stick with for the rest of her life, which is why I think the symbolism of her character was so important, especially at the end, because um, she went through so much only to be hanged by, like, that was her death. Like, I
Oh
just
no no
thought that
no,
was,
guillotine.
I apologize. Sorry. Inaccurate information.
No no no, hanging would have been much worse in my opinion. People say the guillotine's barbaric, but at least it's quick. Depending on how long your brain stays active after your head rolls away. Some people have reported that the head kind of still like blinks a little bit, like they still have some life in there. But a good clean cut, nice and fast, generally severing your brain from the rest of your body, which would also kind of ruin your pain signals in a way. So I mean, it just, in my opinion, it's probably less barbaric than strangling someone to death
I
slowly
agree.
for however long it takes. But also the problem is too, as you see in the film, she was married on 1st September 1768 to some other guy. She had to have
Yep.
a marriage in order to be admitted to the court, but she wasn't marrying the king. So it's just, it sucks. Um, she felt like she was like special enough to be monogamous, but really it's just unrealistic expectations of that reality. But it is also bizarre too because I think I don't know, he was grieving a loss. Um, his only sane and nice daughter went away because his other daughters were complete bitches. So I mean, and he took solace in some other people. It's weird, but it's like it's also just a look in, as the assistant said, to look into his dark side. He doesn't want to have to
Right.
go back to, even though she's his favorite, he doesn't want to have to go to the one back to the one with baggage through a hard time. He just wants some simple pleasures and some somebody who doesn't know him yet. So it's like there are just dynamics where it's definitely a lot more Shakespearean, even though it's based on actual history. There are just Shakespearean elements of, it's not as simple like as just a love story between two normal people. These are people in highly complex situations where they have to all act with completely insane and weird, and they made fun of that through the film with the little backward shuffle walk.
Yes,
um, they made fun
that
of
was
those crazy customs, but they still had to kind of adhere to them, otherwise they would be kicked out. So it's just interesting weird things they had to do, but they kind of um, took the burden on, and because it was worth it at the end of the day, it seems like, because she still got to be with them, she still got to be his favorite, they still got to do everything. It's just, there was some extra baggage and there were some shadows to it, and but at the end of the day, she did what she had to do and what she thought she could do that was right, it seems.
Yeah, I just I don't know how else to describe it. It's just the film itself was just so beautiful because um it really told me that even though that you will die and that it will happen, life can still be worth it. Regardless of where you are as a person, what social status you are, how much money you're making, any of that sort. Even during a time such as, you know, in France where they had like kings and queens, etc., like a monarchy. Um, it just still was so like beautiful. And yeah, there was a lot of fuck ups, a ton of fuck ups, but there was humor within it, and it was really interesting. And I just really I don't know how else to phrase it. I'm not as best as I can with film terminology or emotions of that sort, but I loved the film a lot. Probably one of my favorites, honestly. And side note, in the king's room where he would bring in harlots, can I please have that door? I would love to have a little secret door in my room. That would be awesome.
It's not just a door; it's a door behind, like it's a fake bookcase door. It's just the coolest thing ever.
I know. I kept looking at it and I was like, hey, can I have that? Have a little hallway for myself? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it was. The sets were amazing, and the whole area was stunning. It's beautiful when you get to go to these giant sets and these big extravagant castles and actually use them for something interesting for once.
Hmm.
If you're not shooting a movie on there, I don't know why they exist.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's just really it was a great experience, and I think it was very well done. Um, it blew up the Cannes Film Festival, which is one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world. So, any any random criticism from Rotten Tomatoes neckbeards honestly doesn't bother me in any way. Um, I think that it was well done. It's the only
Hmm.
French film that I've really seen and that I thought was probably the best movie of the year so far. I don't remember any other French film that I've been able to call the film of the year.
If you like a film, then you like it. And honestly, with people critiquing it and saying that, oh, well, it has this certain percent of Rotten Tomatoes, so I don't want to see it. It's like, that's just a biased review. Like, just go see it if you want to. If you don't do it. Either way, it's your choice. So for me, when you offered the chance for me to go see it, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Take me there. It was great.
Well, to anyone born before the year 2000, everyone knows the ancient text of the internet. And it developed over time. And then with the advent of Rotten Tomatoes, there was one of those ancient truths that stayed true forever. And it was that like 80% of the time that Rotten Tomatoes says the movie is rotten, it's probably a banger and it's probably great.
Mhm.
They often just have bizarre scales, and they have bizarre ways of choosing which critic reviews, because there are actually thousands and thousands of these things that go out for all different publications and all around the world. So if you truly want to aggregate what the consensus of a film was, um, 500 audience reviews and 200 to 300 critic reviews, or sometimes less than that, is not going to give people a very good indication. And only
Mm.
taking the same old stuff, stuffy New York Times and LA Times and deadline critics. I mean, those institutions are completely out of touch. Nobody cares what they have to say. It's the word of mouth of real people that gets films around now. So it's the internet
Mhm.
marketing. It's the creative ways that marketing campaigns are trying to appeal to actual people. So you're not going to be able to tell with any kind of honesty that a film's consensus can be summed up by one website, not even a good like picture of it. You have to look at
Yeah.
the French reviews. You have to look at the Cannes reviews, which got us 7 to 10 minute standing ovation. You have to look at people who are actually well versed in cinema. You can't just grab a Rolling Stone critic, sorry, and tell us that you've done journalism or that you've done anything beneficial. to cinema or to society at large.
Yeah, it's like that meme where it's like, well, I'm sort of a scientist myself. Like
Yeah, there's just a bunch of, gender studies degrees going. Yeah, I'm something of a critic myself because there's nothing else to do with this damn thing, so I'm just going to go around saying that nothing's queer enough. But
or psychology students where they go into like fucking abnormal psych and they go, I'm sort of a psychiatrist myself. I know
yeah, it's
exactly
just
what those people want, like it's weird.
film criticism is where people like me go. It's people who have either failed at real jobs or they don't want to do real jobs. So that's why we're here. Hello. Um yeah.
Oh,
So you get a lot of idiots in that um in that net. You get idiots who say that every single frame of every single movie is woke and they will actively avoid some fantastic movies because it has a female lead because they assume that a female lead means that it's going to be, like Ray or whatever. Um and it's just stupid. It's just extreme on both sides. And then you have like idiots like at the Daily Wire making propaganda movies and
right.
shows and stuff like that. Like it's like a weird, less funny, culty version of adult Veggie Tales. It's just like it's just so bizarre. It's so far from mainstream. And then you have the other end where you have crazy people who see microaggressions in their soup and everything. It's just like for normal people though who just love films and love cinema, it's just hard to find solid information. Just find actual critiques of what a film presented and offered in the goddamn runtime and on the screen, and not whip up a weird frenzy surrounding a film in the media that has nothing to do with it. Like Joker, all these outlets throwing a random tantrum in 2019 before it came out that there were going to be some sort of like terrorist clown attacks at every screening, and it didn't happen in a single one.
Yeah,
It
I
made a
remember
it
that.
was an R-rated movie that made over $1 billion. It's in the most successful R-rated film of all time. So that's like what, if assuming the ticket price average is $10 um, at the time, hundreds of millions of people saw it, and not a single clown attack. People dressed as clowns, but there were no clown attacks, and there was no terror attacks, and there were no mass incel uprising and revolution. So it's just like, and it happened months before the film. So it's people
Yeah.
making up rumors online and their little blogs and for their stupid little newspapers nobody reads anymore, literally over nothing. It was just their fantasy wet dreams or something. And it's hard to find good, honest, objective critics because usually people are approaching it from an angle. For example, Ben Shapiro does movie reviews. I can count on,
What?
but
I didn't know that.
yeah, I can count on one hand the number of people who asked him to start doing movie reviews and who care about his film reviews. Number one is him. Number two is Matt Walsh, and everyone else that works for him. Like it's just
Oh
no,
my
no, nobody asked him for his opinion on anything creative at all. He's the least creative person I have seen in my life. If like anti creativity existed, that would be the manifestation of it.
God.
Nobody gives a shit what Ben Shapiro thinks, but they really don't give a shit what he thinks about films. And it's just like, if we live in a world where he thinks he could be a film critic, then this world is a joke. But anyway, back to the film. What else
Back to the
did you?
point.
Yeah, what else did you want to say about about the movie?
I mean, here's what I'm gonna say. Kind of like bringing this all together because we were talking about like the like which critics to turn to or which ones to not turn to. With Jeanne Du Barry specifically, I knew that this film was going to be good because A, Johnny Depp is in it. If he's in it, I know the film's going to be good because I've watched a ton of movies from him because you have showed them to me and I have realized that Johnny Depp can pretty much play anybody. He's very good at masking. He's good at putting on a facade. And he really captures emotion. I keep saying the word capture, but it's just true. And then reason number two is because the cinematography was beautiful, and also the marketing behind it. As somebody who has studied marketing for a few years in college and graduated in a degree of it, I can safely say that this film was going to be good because the film wasn't stuffing it down people's throats. They were very like consistent, but it wasn't like every single day. It was like, all right, just letting you know this film's going to be out in a week. Just letting you know this film will be out in 3 days. And then they'll show like maybe a little bit of action, maybe a little bit behind the scenes, or maybe something of that sort. I mean, I can't remember the exact content off the top of my head, but either way, I have learned over the years, especially with film, if you do not post a lot and you kind of just let this you just let the film speak for itself, then you know that the film will be good. Now, for example, Napoleon's marketing, on the other hand, was terrible because they kept being consistent and they were like, what would you do if you were Napoleon? And it was like, girl, the film wasn't even good. It was really strange. Like, I didn't like it.
And then Napoleon was more like was it Rhino? Rhino,
I don't know.
whatever motion he was making with his foot, with that, was he trying to be like a horse or a rhino or
I
something? I don't
I
know. It
thought
was
of it like as a buffalo, like when they're about to
maybe,
charge.
yeah,
That's what I
or yeah, like was he trying to act like, you know, he just, it was bizarre. Whoever told him that was a good idea was either insane or wanted to see them fail and was laughing about the fact that they were dumb enough to actually put that on the film.
I just it I agree with you because it's weird to just it was weird going into that theater and watching it, and you're like, is this really happening? And also, I know for a fact that Joaquin Phoenix did not want to do that. He was so uncomfortable. I could tell. That poor guy. I felt so bad.
No, he'll
Um,
do anything,
yeah.
especially for Ridley Scott. So I doubt he opposed those choices. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it. Um, he's obviously the kind of person who will do anything to achieve what he thinks and what the director thinks they want for out of a character. So he starved himself for Joker. He ate a bunch for other movies. Um, you know, he's gone insane for Beau is Afraid and The Master from 2012. So yeah,
Mhm.
he'll do literally anything. Just ask him.
Well, I'm not trying to criticize him because I think he's a fantastic actor as well, but that was a horrible movie. I It was not good.
It's just sad because his portrayal in other scenes was so good, especially the one where he crowned himself um as King of France.
Hmm.
So it just really ruined it. The historical inaccuracies, the obsession with Josephine, and the really creepy love scenes. It all just made no sense
It
when you
didn't.
put it all together.
If
And it
there
was
was more,
anti-historical.
yeah, if there was, sorry, I keep interrupting you, but if there was more war scenes, I probably would have liked it more, but it was a really weird movie. Like it felt like I was walking into a weird like fever dream like porno. It was really strange. I didn't really like it. But I mean, I'm getting off topic here, but Jean Du Barry, as I said, um, they were pretty good about timing it right and making sure that the promo was consistent, but um, they let the film speak for itself. And I think that's what people are supposed to do with films now. Because I can't stand it when people are like, oh, let your children go see the new If movie, and then they like post a ton of trailers over and over and over and over on social media. Like it pisses me off. I'm sorry, it does. I know that as a marketing person, I probably shouldn't be saying that, but like it's true. It's not authentic. So yeah, Jean Du Barry, fantastic with marketing and fantastic film. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it was just a culmination of a long wait, and it was worth the wait. I'm glad we finally got to see it. It was um it was very well done. The interview after was very special to see. So it was just great to be able to see it in theaters and get the full surround sound of all those conversations and those scenes with tons of extras everywhere. It really felt like you were in the room most of the time, or with them in every scene. It was
Hmm.
just special. It was a great time. It was a lot of fun, and it's been too long since a really solid period piece like that has kind of come out. So yeah, it was a
I
long
agree.
time coming. And I'm looking forward to more projects that come out of into film.
I totally, totally am with you on that one. The period timing and the historical films nowadays are not good. And I was a little hesitant with that with Jean Du Barry, but as I said, I wasn't extremely worried about it. It was just a little worry in the back of my head. And then once the film started, I was like, ah, I'm great. I'm chill. I'm in my seat, fully sat.
Well, is there anything else you want to say about it?
No, I just really appreciate you taking me to go see it because it was a masterpiece. I would love to go see it again.
Well, we can now because it today it released in the U.S. and Canada, I believe, on streaming. So you can rent it for 7, buy it for 14 on Apple TV or the Apple app or wherever you can buy streaming. Vudu, I think, is carrying it now too.
Hmm.
So wherever you can stream movies early by paying a little bit, um, it is now available.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that it was to your expectations. I am very honored to be a guest on this podcast. Look forward to some more episodes. Look forward to more exciting reviews, maybe some special guests along the way. Either way, I appreciate it. And John appreciates it as well that you guys are listening in and hearing what we have to say. So I hope you all have a good one.
Yep, we're gonna have more coming out soon. We're gonna have a Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare review, and we're gonna be having possibly a fun debate June 9th. So stay tuned for details on that. But yeah, till then, just be safe and have fun.